Welcome to part 1 of our 3-part series for our professional development videos. Today we are going to be talking about sensory processing. The next topics we will be discussing are equipment and safety within the sensory room, and the last topic will be scenarios about how to properly use the sensory room.
Today we are going to talk about our first professional development topic, which is about sensory processing. During this video, we will discuss our senses, what sensory processing is, sensory needs and differences, sensory information responses, effects of dysregulation in the classroom, and the benefits of sensory rooms. Before we proceed with the presentation, I want everyone to try a quick activity. To begin, please think of one or more things that you can see. It can be anything around you. Try to look for small details such as a pattern on the ceiling, the way light reflects off a surface, or an object you have never noticed. Next, notice what you can feel touching your body right now. The sensation of clothing on your body, the sun on your skin, or the feeling of the chair you are sitting in. Now, identify a couple of things that you can hear. Pay special attention to the sounds your mind tunes out, such as a ticking clock or distant traffic. Next, what are some things you can smell? Try to notice smells in the air around you, like an air freshener or freshly mowed grass. You may also look around for something that has a scent, such as perfume or an unlit candle. Lastly, identify at least one thing you can taste. If you don't have anything in your mouth, take time to grab a piece of gum, candy, or a small stack. Pop one in your mouth and focus your attention closely on the flavors. That completes our activity. You just utilized 5 out of the 7 of our senses to take in and process information around you. Now let's talk about those senses. The 5 main senses that we just utilized and we all know about are sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. These senses help us receive information about the world around us. 2 other senses that are greatly utilized but aren't as well known are proprioception and vestibular. Proprioception is our body awareness sense. It tells us where our body parts are without having to look for them. This helps to know where body parts are relative to each other, which strengthens our coordination skills. It also tells us how much force to use when we're holding, pushing, pulling, or lifting objects. The vestibular sense is our movement, gravity, and/or balance sense that allows us to move smoothly. Due to our vestibular sense, we are able to maintain our balance when we walk, run, or engage in activities, as well as stay upright when we sit and stand. So now that we identified our senses, how do we use these senses to process information around us? We do this through a process called sensory processing. As you can see in this picture, sensory processing is the ability of our bodies to take in information through our senses, organize the information, and then interpret it in order to produce a meaningful response and properly interact with the environment.
All individuals process sensory information differently. Individuals who have difficulty processing sensory information have trouble organizing the information they receive from their senses. These difficulties present differently for everybody, and they can look like unusually high or low activity levels, poor attention to tasks, delays in speech, motor skills, or academic achievement, difficulty learning new tasks, difficulty with transitions between activities or environments, immature social skills, impulsivity, and/or difficulty calming self. There are 4 types of sensory information responses. Sensation avoiding is when a child feels overwhelmed by sensory information and will actively avoid the stimulation. They may run away from loud, busy environments, cover their ears when overstimulated by noise, or wear gloves to avoid touching certain materials, such as paint. Sensory sensitive is when a child feels overwhelmed by sensory information, but they do not actively try to avoid overstimulation. Instead, They may just display frustration. They may be easily distracted and irritable, cautious, and uncomfortable in loud or bright environments. A child with low registration does not recognize or process all of the incoming sensory information, and they do not compensate by trying to gain more sensory input to meet their needs. They may seem uninterested and inattentive to their surroundings. A child classified as sensation-seeking does not recognize or process all of the incoming sensory information, but contrary to low registration, they actively try to gain the sensory input to meet their needs. They may be hyperactive, touch others often, or engage in unsafe activities, like jumping from heights. So how does this all affect a child's daily life in school? This could look like a child having trouble paying attention, presenting with decreased memory, difficulty with transitioning between tasks, decreased socialization skills, overwhelmed by bright lights or noises, and/or difficulty with sitting still, just to name a few. So how can the sensory room help with these difficulties? The sensory room can help in regulation through alerting, organizing, or calming strategies. They are able to receive the stimuli their body needs, whether that be gross motor movements, tactile, or auditory. There's calming spaces that allow them to relax and decompress from an overstimulating environment. Students, especially those with a history of trauma, stress, and sensory needs, benefit from a multi-sensory environment. Sensory rooms provide stimulation and emotional regulation for students, which impacts appropriate sensory responses to stimuli. Through the utilization of the sensory room, the students would be able to better participate in a classroom and show consistent academic performance and participation. When designing a space, a flexible and adaptable space is most beneficial to meet the diverse needs of individuals. To optimize learning, best practices suggest the space should include many different activities that involve their senses of sight, hearing, and smell, and introspection. Sensory rooms and the facility that promote them help facilitate self-care, self-nurturance, empowerment, skill development, resilience, and recovery. Proper utilization of this information can lead to the effective use of best practices in sensory rooms that will overall create a positive impact for students. We hope that this information is helpful for you, and we have provided a handout for you to reference in the future. If you have any questions, please contact us.